All right. Good evening. I'm Larry Nicholson, Nicholson Network Services. You probably noticed the logo on the shirt. I'd like to take a poll before we start. How many of you, raise your hand up, have had a hard drive fail in a laptop, a desktop, or a server? Keep up. Keep up. Hang on, keep up. I've got to do a count here.
Just take count of people.
Okay, so 20 odd. Okay, so 20 people. Hard drive fail. All right, the next question. How many of you have had a fire or a flood at a client site and you've had to rush in there to rescue said IT equipment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. 6 people. Fire, flood, or otherwise. Okay.
Sewer backup was a pretty shitty install.
Sorry, what?
It was a sewer backup.
A sewer
It
backup.
was a pretty shitty service.
That would be a very shitty service call with big boots and large gloves.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question. How many of you have had a hard drive fail and a fire or a flood on the same night at 2 different clients? My luck. Ladies and gentlemen, ITPro alumni, I want to talk to you about disaster recovery, tales from the field, and specifically, what are the odds of something going wrong? The Dow server in question here on a Thursday night decided that its little long hard drive was going to cease to function. Client called me up late Thursday night, said, server's down, don't know what's going on, we'll need to figure something out, restore from backup, yada, yada, yada. I went into Mississauga the Friday morning, stopped in at my favorite computer supplier, picked up a couple of SSD hard drives, all the other certain parts and pieces. The client had already done some prep work on their environment in preparation for my arrival. We were using Cetera Backup at the time. Anybody familiar with Cetera Backup solution? No? Okay. So Cetera Backup solution to restore back from, we basically had to get one array recreated on the server, start the restore process, all that fun stuff, and get things operational. We were about 3 to 4 hours in. Server was up and running. We had done some basic restores. We had got things operational. Things were looking good. And my BlackBerry rang. Larry speaking. Hi, Larry, it's Andrew. I'm the client. I'm heading down to my office to meet with the fire marshal. There's been a fire in our office. That's good, Andrew. I had mentioned to him earlier that the other client that I was working at had a hard drive failure, so he knew I was a little preoccupied. Pause. Larry, it's Andrew. I'm heading down to the office to meet with the fire marshal to talk and review the fire we've had. Pause. Andrew, you're serious? Larry, I'm heading down. Okay. What? Fire? Huh? So Andrew basically said, once I get there and I have some answers for you, I'll call you back. I'll let you know. Fabulous. So I go back to working on the first ordeal. We get it operational, we start some of the restore, we get them functional. Obviously, the client has heard the conversation that I've had on the phone with the other client, and has basically said, if you can get us up and operational, I'll do the join the desktops, do the domain, etc., and we'll make things work, and we'll be good to go from there. So, 9:30 the next morning, I'm in Mississauga. And the client is very preoccupied and has this particular piece of hardware in the trunk of his car. The fire marshal has reviewed the facilities with him. He's gone through. The fire's been put out. They're having an analysis of the environment, what happened and why, all those neat details out. The client very excitedly sees me and says, I got the server. I pulled it out of the office. It's in the trunk of my car. So he has the server. The fire marshal says, we're going to review the facility. We're going to inspect. Would you like to have a tour of what's left? And me never seeing any kind of an office fire thinks, Yeah, kind of fun. So we go downstairs. He's in the basement of this 3-story complex. It's kitty corner from square one, to give you an idea of where it is. So we go downstairs. The first thing that you don't realize is that there's obviously no hydro. The windows have been boarded up. So pitch black is an understatement. And the smell, my God, like you've never smelled rotten eggs in your life, is the smell that just permeates everything. So you walk down the stairs, you walk into the client's doorway, and you look at the office space, and there's nothing there but pitch black. And you look down the hallway, what used to be a hallway, and desks and cubicles, and there's nothing but this black hole where the firemen have run through with their axes and hoses and everything else, and they've obliterated all the furniture and everything else. And there's a trouble light stand back there, and all of the fire inspectors and everybody else are all wearing masks. And they're all wearing full outfits. They are completely covered other than their ears. These guys do this on a regular basis, and the carcinogens and the crap that is in the air, these guys are just thoroughly protected from any and all environments. Me and Andrew, we wander around there with our bare hands and look at all this cool stuff. The fire had started about 7 o'clock, 7:15 or so. The cleaners had just left. Everybody else had gone, so there was nothing left in the space. The cause of the fire was the power feed into that basement space for the 3 floors had shorted out. So take a 200 amp service and short across the 2 feeds with an 18 to 24 inch arc, and this is an exact quote from the fire marshal, 18 to 24 inch arc leaps across these 2 power feeds. So molten metal is spraying out of this power box so that all of the carpeting, all of the paper, all of the everything's instantly ignites. So all of that whole back area around the power box, and it's a surveyor, so lots of paper drawings, lots of cardboard boxes, lots of very flammable, combustible things, all gone in the time it took this fire to get started. And then the flames and smoke rose up the walls and continued through the ductwork to all the other offices. Well, the server, luckily enough, was not anywhere near the power box. It was in another office. But the UPS has kept the server running, so the server continued to operate and do its job even when the power was out. So as the time kept ticking by, the server kept running. And as the server kept running, it kept ingesting all of the smoke and all of the crap out of the air and tarnished all of the inside components. Everything in there has got this layer of black, and you can see, after I finish my speech, the corner here is still this black tar coating. Just incredible. So the lucky part of it is that the backup device, the Cetera, was sitting up on a shelf, and 6 to 8 inches above it was a vent. So the heat had wandered through the ductwork and, of course, came down the vent. The little Cetera device was about 3 or 4 inches high. The hard drive was all that was left of the backup device. Fortunately enough, the server being in the right location, the 2 UPSs, etc., the hard drives I basically pulled out of the server, bought the exact same server on the Monday morning. On the Tuesday, installed the drives into the new server, booted it up, did nothing else, and the client lost no data. The other client, however, with the Cetera backup as well on the failed hard drive, the Cetera agent did not restore the SharePoint database. We had many heated conversations with Cetera and their tech support people and explained to them, no, we need this restored back. This is not rocket science. How tough can it be to restore a SharePoint database? Well, this went on for 2 weeks. They were never able to restore it. So out of this whole ordeal, I learned 2 important things. One is disaster is always just around the corner, as most of you can attest to. The second is make sure that your disaster recovery process, technology, solution, all those components you know and have demonstrated very, very carefully and very thoroughly, because there's going to become a time when you're going to have a client that's going to say, the server's gone, we need to restore. So part 2 of my presentation is a discussion about Datto and what Datto does. How many of you heard of Datto Backup Solution? Okay. So the Datto is sort of along the same lines of the old favorite statement I have, and Calvin's heard it, the power of 3. Data on the server, data on a locally attached, network attached device, and then third is up in the cloud someplace or other. So the Datto, it's a very complicated device. It's a very large, you have to spend a lot of time on it. That's it. So install an agent on the server. The agent communicates with this device. It's using StorageCraft technology. You guys know StorageCraft? Shadow Protect. This is using that technology. So I can recover from the device to dissimilar hardware or identical hardware very, very easily. The Ultra that I'm holding here replicates all that information up to the cloud. So it's in the 3 places. You just finish it? So you've got the data in the 3 places. So if you want to restore back, you restore back from the cloud using the Alto. If you buy the more expensive Cirrus, the Cirrus is actually a Linux server, and it can store the images locally as well as replicate them to the cloud. So if you need to restore back very quickly and easily, you can with the Cirrus. Obviously, the Cirrus is just more money because you're buying a piece of hardware. The best part about the Datto solution is it's got screenshot verification. So every hour, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday to Friday, when it does a backup, it boots up that virtual image, does a screenshot of your booting up server, desktop, whatever it is that you want backed up, and says, yes, here's the screenshot verification. Yes, it is working properly. Backup is good. Have a nice day. And that's the reason why I love the Datto product. That's why I support the Datto product. But it's just to emphasize that there are always times when the shit's going to hit the fan. You need to make sure that you've got a solution that tells you, yes, the backup did complete properly. Yes, we have your image. And yes, it is replicated offsite if you need any help or any restores of that data. And that is pretty much my story about Tales from the Field, disaster and backup recovery. Questions?